Roger Stone here. Your dollars are losing ground, but gold isn't. American Sovereign Bullion helps you protect your wealth through real, tangible assets. Through their nationwide wholesaler network, you get some of the best pricing on gold and silver delivered straight to your door. Since 1912, the U.S. dollar has lost 97% of its purchasing power. Meanwhile, gold continues to prove its strength. So call 844-272-2428. That's 844-272-2428. Or visit dyingdollar.com to request your free gold and silver guide. That's dyingdollar.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. You're back in the Stone Zone right here on the Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Audio Networks. We're on the most influential radio stations in America today, and very grateful to my friend John Katsimatidis for allowing me this opportunity. Now we are joined by Joe Hoft. Joe Hoft is one of the most influential alternative journalists in the country today. He was an executive with multiple corporations in the audit and finance areas throughout his entire career. He performed work around the world, eventually landing in Hong Kong for nearly a decade. Joe began writing with his twin brother Jim at the Gateway Pundit in 2016. And I'm going to tell you, if you ever want a couple guys in the foxhole with you when you're under fire, Joe and Jim Hoft are true patriots. They printed the truth when they tried to smear me in the Russian collusion hoax. When no one else in the media wanted to go anywhere near me, the Hoft brothers were there every day telling people the truth about the outrageous attempts to stage a coup and destroy the presidency of President Donald Trump. He's written 9 books total, but an incredible 3-book best-selling series on the 2020 election labeled The Steal, which was praised by President Donald Trump himself. He and his brother have both been targets of the deep state as well due to their incredible, ongoing, effective reporting throughout the past decade. He is a man I'm proud to call my friend. Joe Hoft, welcome to the Roger Stone Show.
Roger, great to be here. Thanks so much. It's a real honor.
So, Joe, you had a piece that I saw this week that I really had to highlight. I continue, like you are, to be outraged by the plight of Tina Peters. Tina Peters was an election official in Mesa County, Colorado, and she's in prison right now, not because she did anything wrong, but she had the audacity to actually keep the proof that the Colorado election was stolen. And for that, they have sent this woman to prison, and they refuse to release her, despite the fact that she is ill, and even the courts have ruled that her sentencing and her sentence does not fit what they claim is her crime. You uncovered the fact that a corrupt and biased judge, one Matthew Barrett, who sentenced Tina Peters, got caught lying in his letter to the governor as he sticks to his erroneous and abusive sentencing of Tina Peters, who is not well. Tell us about this, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Roger. And as you're talking and sharing the story about Tina, I'm reminded of your story or General Flynn's story or the numerous President Trump stories where these great men, not just and Rudy's, the greatest people in America today, maybe in history, the greatest Americans, the ones that they've gone after. And you know, so in a way, it's almost like an honor that you were targeted and others, but the hell that they put these people through is unbelievable. Tina's story is just, it takes your breath away. It's so disgusting. Just, you and Flynn and the rest over the years. But like you said, she did everything right. I'm a former corporate executive international auditor. I've done audits around the world, and she did everything right when she decided to perform this activity that was mandated upon her by the corrupt Secretary of State out there in Colorado. She did it. It was some exercise that she was told to do. I think the whole state, every county was mandated that they perform this. They called it a trusted build. It's amazing how they always use these bogus names to to dictate what they're going to do. It was the total opposite. What Tina did that others didn't was that she copied and kept a copy of her data before this trusted build, and then she compared it to what her data was after the trusted build, and her data from a recent election had changed. And so she reported that and was really a whistleblower. And instead of being praised for her work and what she did and being prudent and basically doing her job, again, not only as a state employee, because she was running this Mesa County as a county clerk, which elections were under her purview, but also she was working on behalf of the federal government. It was some of those elections were federal elections, and that brought in an argument for some people on the supremacy clause. But anyways, they arrested her. They eventually threw her in prison. This judge is just vile. If you ever were to play that some of those comments from that judge during her sentencing, he was full of just vile hate for Tina. And Tina's a good woman, a Gold Star mom, and he gave her 9 years, and it was outrageous. And anybody that knew Tina, and she became well known even before her trial, just a beautiful lady, Gold Star mom. It never should have happened to her or anyone. And she's been in prison since that time. So they're trying to get her out. There's people like Peter Tickton, who's an attorney, is trying to do that. And one thing, there's been a number of things that they've done. One, even President Trump gave her a pardon. There's been a debate over the president can give someone a pardon over state crimes. I put up a piece not long ago, Roger, that says, no, there's some precedence for this. That before the early, like the 1920s or something, a pardon was considered a president. He could pardon either a state or a federal crime. Similar, based on even precedents with the English and the way their court was set up. So they've ignored Trump's pardon. They, like you mentioned, they sentenced her to 9 years more, I believe, and then this judge recently sent a letter to the governor of Colorado as he's deciding whether to pardon her, because everybody knows that the state head, which would be the governor, could pardon her. And this judge said, "Oh no, I did everything fine. Everything I did with my sentencing was perfect. It was right in within the guidelines." And Tina's attorney said, no, that's not true. Instead of running all of these indictments and her sentencing concurrently, he stacked them. So instead of having a 3-year time in prison, he gave her 9 years. And so it seems like everything that this guy does seems as corrupt as can be. He's lying to the governor in a letter. And then at the same time this week, he refused to let her out on bond again, and he also refused to accept the belief from Tina's attorneys that he's biased in any way. So
this is a judge who at trial prevented Tina's lawyers from providing evidence that supported the legality of her actions, ignored federal statutes like the supremacy clause, as well as the actions of the federal employees, and was in a conference call with Attorney General Merrick Garland and FBI head Christopher Wray, which kind of demonstrates that this whole thing was part of one seditious conspiracy. How is Tina's health, and how is she doing, Joe?
Well, she's had cancer before. She's a cancer survivor before this whole incident ever occurred. I can give you one story. I received a letter from a lady who knows Tina and is communicating with Tina. A lady from Denver sent me this, and she wrote it up, and it was a journalist in her prior life, and it was Tina saying, "Hey, if anything happens to me, I'm not suicidal." And while she was sitting in prison a couple of years ago, and this lady shared this with me, and I reported it. I shared it at joehoft.com and at Tina and at the Gateway Pundit. And what happened was about 2-3 weeks later, I get an email, and it's from somebody who says, "Hey, I was really moved by that piece that you put up about Tina. She said, okay, is there any way you can get it to President Trump? And the lady said, I'm Tina's mother. I'm 95 years old. And that just broke my heart. I'm like, you are kidding me. She was concerned for her daughter. There's been an incident here recently when Tina was confronted by another woman in prison, and that led to an investigation in the prison. I mean, I don't know if she's safe in there. And there's at one point they put her in a small room with a huge fan in it. It used to be some sort of maybe a cooling room or something. Of course, she would have to wear multiple sets of clothes just to stay warm. It's to me, it sounds like, you know, just terrible abuse directed, you know, at her as really a political, you know, prisoner, really, of the Colorado government. It's so I don't know how she's doing right now. Actually, I haven't even heard on her health recently.
I mean, it seems to me, since Tulsi Gabbard is conducting an investigation into the accuracy and the security of our elections, I'm uncertain why Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, who seems to be doing a lot of the right things these days, could not declare her a federal witness and, frankly, send federal marshals in to get her. I know that Eagle Ed Martin, who was the head of the Pardon Office and briefly headed the Weaponization Office, has recommended that. I don't think that would be an inappropriate action, in all honesty. Her life is in danger. This is a politically charged case. The judge is wrong in his statements, and her life hangs in the balance. I think the entire thing is unfair, and outrageous. I had Tina right here in the Stone Zone several times before she had to turn herself in. She's a fine woman, a woman of enormous courage, and all she did was copy proof that this election was stolen. That's her crime. She copied proof, which is why they're trying to destroy her, even as we speak today. If you're just tuning in, we're talking to Joe Hoft, one of the most influential journalists, alternative journalists in the country. You can go to his website, joehoft.com, joehoft.com. I also highly recommend his 3-book best-selling series on the 2020 election called The Steal. I want to remind you that Joe has a history and an enormous experience in the audit and finance worlds of investigating crimes exactly like what happened in our 2020 election. You want to get his 3-part book, The Steal, praised by President Donald Trump himself. Of course, there's an ongoing effort. Try to go to Google and try to look up a story on the Gateway Pundit or on joehoft.com, and you'll have to get down pretty deep before you find that story. Anyway, you're listening to Joe Hoft right here as a guest in the Stone Zone, right here on the Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Audio Networks, and we'll be right back. And we're back. By the way, we get a lot of requests for this before the end of today's show. I am going to have the recipe, my mother's recipe, for Hungarian chicken soup. So if you're interested in that, I urge you to grab a pen and paper now so you'll be able to write that down by the end of the show. I'm going to bring you one of my my fabulous family recipes. I mean to get around to writing a book on all of these, both Hungarian and Italian recipes. I'm half Italian and I'm half Hungarian. Of course, I'm Italian from the waist down. And I'm going to have that for you later. So if you want to grab a piece of paper and a pen before the end of the show, I'm going to have that recipe for you. Right now, we're talking to Joe Hoft, one of the most influential alternative journalists in the country today. He and his brother Jim had the courage to print the facts about the attempt by Robert Mueller and Adam Schiff and my subsequent escape of the deadly snare that they set for me. Glory be to God for that. I want to ask you, Joe, there are a lot of people who are ready to throw in the towel in the midterm elections. I don't agree with that. I think our politics is extraordinarily volatile, and that Republicans are going to have an enormous cash advantage, and also an advantage in the case of messaging. Donald Trump has given us the largest tax cut in American history. He has given us energy independence, returned us to energy independence. Food prices are coming down. Oil prices, based on what John John Catsimatidis, an oil man, said in a great interview that we played right here on the show, oil prices are going to come down, therefore gas prices are going to come back down. I think by the time the election comes, we're going to have a very strong economy. But how do you feel about the midterm elections?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I think, well, the main thing is the left, if they're going to continue to steal the elections, and as you mentioned, I've written those books on it, if they're going to continue to get away with it, then they have to build a narrative that is reasonable. And so they continue to use bogus polls and all sorts of basically lies to suggest that we're in trouble. I don't know if I've ever seen the push by the left and through social media and other outlets to suggest that that they're going to do well in the next election. There is nothing these guys have done that I think anybody could say, that's great, I'm behind that 100%. Nothing. And one thing that I did writing with Gateway Pundit with Jim is in 2016, I started looking at the polls, and it was between Hillary and Trump, and I would see, and they would give the data, and the data was often, well, they're reaching out to like 55 Democrats and 45 Republicans, and Hillary won that. And they wouldn't mention that, but they'd say Hillary's up in the poll, 52 to 48 or whatever. In essence, there were Democrats that were going with Trump, and they didn't tell you, though, that the mix was so biased against Trump just from the start. And I would report on that, and then it seemed like they even began to hide the details behind the polling. I think by 2020, they just put up bogus numbers altogether. This is my personal opinion. And now this is just a continuation of it. What I learned in 2020, after 2020, is that there's other indicators that will tell us how well we're doing. This is my theory. And one was in 2021, there was a poll by Rasmussen that said 62% of Americans believe the 2020 election was stolen. It's a year later, after the election. We've got massive media push the whole time on mainstream media that the election was stolen, or that President Trump had attempted to steal that election, and that he was, Biden won legitimately. Which every day we heard that. Then they came out with the January 6th investigation, and they told us that it was sedition. President Trump was committing sedition along with all these January 6ers. And a poll was done also about that same time a year later, saying that 65% of Americans, basically 2 out of 3 Americans, believe that the January 6th was a setup. So for me, I'm thinking those are the real numbers that correlate with people behind President Trump. A couple weeks ago, that Rasmussen had a poll, and it said 82% of voters believe that the government has been weaponized. So I think the number's going up. I think it's looking really good for Trump. And I think when we push all the noise out of the way, Trump's doing great. If we have free and fair elections, we will crush them. That's my belief.
All right, we have to leave it there. We'll be right back. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to The Roger Stone Show.
Thanks for listening to The Roger Stone Show. You can hear The Roger Stone Show Sunday afternoons at 3. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?